Hey Alex. Hey Chels. Adam. Hey everybody. Hey y'all, welcome. Thanks for joining our IG Live today. We're going to just give everybody a minute to filter in here. Happy Earth Day to everybody. Hey Neri, hey Ava, Katie. I will just give everybody a second to join. All right, y'all. Let's just get it started here. So my name is Dan. I am Fusion PKG's Senior Packaging and Sustainability Engineer. Today being Earth Day, our marketing team here has seen fit to give me the keys to our Instagram IG Live account here. So I'm only under strict guidelines not to share any photos of my worms from my backyard compost, but other than that, the keys are all mine. Today, I'm happy to announce we have enlisted a special guest, Adam Peak, the host of People of Packaging podcast. He's also a TEDx speaker, recently speaking at the Salt Lake City TEDx, where he shared his perspective on sustainability and packaging. With that, let me hit some buttons, see if we can get him joined up here. There he is. All right, let's give him a second here. Hey, Dan. Hey, Brett. There he is. Hey, Adam.
We made it.
Doing?
I'm Instagramming.
Yeah, dude. Welcome to your first one. How's it feel? I know you're familiar with all the other platforms, so now you're an expert in everything.
Man, I feel like I should probably change my last name to Kardashian at this point. I mean,
there you go, man. You're on all the socials now. I'm not going to throw you out here, but you did tell me you had to download Instagram today, so you're now officially.
I might not have had the app on my phone until this morning. It's fine. Details.
Don't worry. Yeah, the marketing team had to show me what buttons to push to turn this on today, so we're in the same boat, my friend.
We're just sustainable packaging people. What do we know about?
Yeah, we're just sustainable packaging nerds here to talk about Earth Day. You know what I mean? So it's fine. But so happy Earth Day. I appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks for it's awesome to be here with you guys. Love what Fusion Packaging has done and continues to do in the packaging space. And it's funny because it's one of those things where it's like we celebrate Earth Day, and I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. We should be raising awareness for stuff like this, but it's like, we should have like Earth every day. Like it's not like tomorrow we shouldn't be concerned about Earth Day. Like we're like, oh, that was just a that was just a day. It's fine. But it's good. It's good to bring awareness though, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fusion, we are trying to bring sustainability into the conversation every day. So yeah, I feel you on that. That's definitely a good perspective to have. So
yeah, I do what I can.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, before we get into some of our great content, I think we've got planned. I just wanted to let you kind of throw out some of your background and tell us how you got into sustainability, packaging, and all that. So once you,
I mean, it's a pretty much just like how everyone did. I was born in Colorado and became a pastor. Like every packaging professional.
Sure.
We were all pastors, or I don't know how many people have my journey, but it's a cool journey. So I was a pastor for a number of years. Thought that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. Really, about 6 years ago, connected with the packaging industry. I was already working in the packaging industry, but I really connected with it in a way that aligned with my core values. I kind of found my why when I realized like that packaging is an avenue for good news for the world. Like we can be a harbinger of goodness. It's not just a problem, that we can impact change and we can do good things and we can bring hope, and that like a packaging evangelist, if you will. So I just had the audacity to take a crack at it, and started getting a lot of people following my stuff on LinkedIn, and then I started a podcast about 3 years ago, and we're going on to our fourth season now. We're at about 20,000 downloads over our first 3 seasons, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
yeah.
That is great. Yeah, and so you started tell me a little bit more about the podcast. So you wanted to nerd out and talk packaging, or is it a
No,
sustainability?
neither. I started it, and it still has this at its core, which is the packaging space it tends to be dominated by older, middle class, Midwestern white guys, and that's who tends to talk a lot of these. And so myself and then my co-host Ted, Ted's from the Bronx. He's a hip hop producer, lives outside of New York City. And we were like, well, let's just start a podcast, and we want to disproportionately focus on the stories of women and people of color in the industry. And so we want to
Sure.
highlight people first. We just end up talking about packaging because they're in the industry.
Okay.
And so that's what we've done. So we talk a lot about sustainability, because sustainability and social justice are very closely linked together. The global climate crisis is disproportionately impacting areas of high levels of poverty, and so there is a real connection to all these things. But that's why we started it, and that's what we continue to do. If you look, we highlight people. It's not just the most important people in the packaging space in terms of like title and prestige and
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
We have students, we have engineers, we have salespeople, we have people from CPG companies, small companies, presidents, CEOs. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of people. It's a
It's
trillion
great.
dollar industry, Dan.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I've listened to your podcasts, and they're excellent, and definitely everybody watching should go and check you out after. So, all right.
Sweet.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to remind, it's called The People of Packaging.
Yes. Yes.
And it's not hard to find. There's not many packaging podcasts. Let's be
This is
honest.
true. This is true. All right. Well, we've got a few folks that have hopped on, so I'll just reiterate everything here. So my name is Dan. I'm Fusion PKG's Senior Packaging and Sustainability Engineer. Today I have Adam Peak with us. He's the host of the People of Packaging podcast. All right, Adam, let's do a little Earth Day paint by numbers, sustainability paint by numbers here. So let's start with 4. It's 422. So let's start with 4. So why don't you give me your take on the 4 most important factors to execute sustainable packaging?
Yeah. So I forgot to mention this. I work for a packaging manufacturing company.
Okay.
It's like secondary packaging. So like Fusion, you guys are doing a lot of primary packaging.
Yes.
I work on the stuff that is going on, like labels and films and stuff like that. So that's where I work. And I have these conversations often because a label, for example, on an HDPE or a PET container is problematic for recycling. It's problematic for reusability. Oftentimes, it's this necessary problem. And so I kind of formulated these 4 ways for us to look at sustainability,
Sure.
sort of holistically when it comes to packaging, because we seem to focus so much on either is it recyclable or is it not. Like we focus on these back end sort of like circular economy planet issues, which are real, but we miss out on the totality of sustainability. So the 4 buckets I throw it into, the first that it has to click off, and this is really important, and it's amazing how many people miss this, is ask and answer the question, is our packaging good for the product? Because the primary use of the packaging is, does it protect the product? Can it get it from point A to point B in a way that means we're not damaging it, we're not getting returns?
Sure.
From a sustainability perspective, that is massive. Food waste is a huge, huge problem. globally. It's the third largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, and a lot of that can be solved with better innovations around packaging. Sometimes even plastics. I'm just saying, it's a thing that
Yeah.
it is a material. We don't have to demonize the materials that can help us actually solve our problems. So is it good for the product? Because we need to protect the product integrity, and it's where I really encourage a lot of people to get in touch with, people like yourself, packaging engineers early on, early on in every single project, because they're always brought in late to the game, and it's a problem. We need to be, if you don't have a packaging engineer, then there are you can find one who will do some kind of piecemeal work for you. So design it, engineer it so that it's good for the product, number one. Number two then is this good for our people? Meaning, is it going to connect? Is it on brand? Can they use it? What's the usability of this packaging? Because again, it doesn't do you any good to put it into a fully compostable or fully recyclable container if it gets to somebody and they can't use it, or they're super
Right.
frustrated, or they don't like it, and they're putting negative comments online, and then they're shipping them all back. You have all this freight, you have all this energy, you have all this stuff that's going in to
All that
making that
effort.
product,
Yeah.
all the effort, and now
Yeah.
it's not usable because the packaging. Well, it's over, right? Like now you are unsustainable, even if it was in this sustainable material. So for the product, and then for the people, or is it on brand? Next, that's when we go to the planet. And that is important. I don't want to minimize not only the end of life, but also the beginning of the life of the packaging. So
Sure.
really taking a look at, is this ethically sourced? Is it sustainably sourced? Is it a good idea? I mean, this is a real question. Like, is it a good idea to take food like sugarcane and corn and use that for packaging when our population is increasing and people are starving? I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but it's a worthwhile question that we need to look at, the front
Sure.
end
And
of that life.
especially if you're gonna try and transition away from something like, we're gonna demonize plastics, as you've already said, and then you're gonna try and make plastics out of something else, which is technically a food source. And then where do you get all the land to make all this packaging that you're somehow gonna now transition away? Yes, I totally
Yeah,
agree that that's not always a great solution. And then there's, still gonna make it into plastic, for example, right? You
right.
can't, yeah,
So
totally agree with you
no,
there.
yeah. So really digging in, and that's the most nuanced, like that's the hardest question to ask, and it's where we want to spend most of our time arguing. And I understand that, but I'm like, well, why aren't we talking about the product and the brand and the people, and then let's formulate around that first, and then let's start looking at the materials. Let's look at life cycle analysis of this material, but don't
Sure.
start with that, because you can end up speccing in something that is going to be really awful for the planet, even though it seems like like it's a great idea. So
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. Like compostable.
right, exactly, yeah. So
It's,
we can dig into that here. Get it? Dig into it in a second.
yeah, there you go.
Uh, I didn't. That one was free. I didn't even charge you for that one.
I
Uh,
appreciate that.
and then the fourth is like the least fun, the least sexy conversation around sustainability and packaging, which is this: is it good for your company's profits? And you're like, wah wah, capitalism again. But let me just say, it has to fit some sort of costing model that makes sense so that you can go and actually sell your product. Because again,
Sure.
if you can't sell your product, if people don't buy it, it's not sustainable, meaning you cannot even sustain business. so
Right.
so
And
a great
normally you pass that to the consumer too, and then it works for no one. And then you're claiming sustainability, but yeah, nobody's winning on that
yeah.
one. Yeah.
So a great example of that was in Tom Zaki did a compilation book called The Future of Packaging. And in it, he details, he says, what the most sustainable packaging is packaging made out of 24 karat gold. That would be the most sustainable packaging. It comes from, we can mine it. It's going to be reused in perpetuity. No one's going to throw it away. Everyone's going to, but who's going to buy a stick of deodorant for $100,000? So you have to have, I mean, it's an
That's a good
egregious
perspective.
example, but it's a good perspective,
Yeah.
right? Like
It's
we
a good,
know that is going to be the most sustainable, or silver or platinum, or any kind of precious metal. But but putting it into that is impossible from a costing standpoint. So really kind of I try to take people through those four sort of buckets, or like you said, paint by numbers of sustainable packaging, and really having a holistic conversation and understanding around it.
Sure.
And what I find out is most companies don't go through that sort of rigorous process internally, because the sad Earth Day secret is that what ends up winning out is, yeah, but what can we do to make us look more sustainable? And that's part of the problem. And we'll kind of maybe get into that here in a little bit in terms
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, to summarize, so you had product, and that's going to be more, that's making sure that we're still protecting the package, or still protecting the product inside with the package, even when it's a sustainable material, not sacrificing anything just to be claim sustainability.
Correct.
Right. So then we have planet. We have making sure that we are doing something like improving circularity, like actually achieving something sustainable. You had people. So that's just making sure that consumers can still identify with the brand and whatnot. So there's not like a huge changeover all of a sudden to a package that they can't identify with and use,
Hmm.
right? And then obviously, then the want would be the profits, the conversation that everybody has to have behind the scenes, but also does impact consumers on the back end, and they're going to feel that pricing. So
Yep.
yeah, perfect. All right, let's count them up. That's 4. Appreciate
We
it.
got them.
We nailed them.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, so let's move on now to the first two. So why don't we talk about what brands can do to be more environmentally friendly right away?
Yeah. So I'm gonna say kind of a couple things here for brands, and I don't know. I just downloaded Instagram today, right? So I can't figure out who's watching or who's not. But anyway, so if there's someone here who's on a brand, what I'm gonna like these quick kind of recommendations. They're not like that's not the home run. It's
Sure.
not the perfect thing, right? So I just want to be really clear, because sometimes I see these solutions and it's like, no, this is it. Like this is the best it'll ever get. And I'm like, I sure hope not, because it's pretty crappy when you really dig into it, whatever that solution is. Um, and so I think that the easiest thing that a brand can do, there's two things. So we'll talk about the first one is really, it's difficult to market, but the first one is lightweight your packaging. So take an analysis of what it is that you are using, because less packaging is more sustainable so long as it does not decrease the value or the lifespan of your product. So if it's
Right.
if it's health and beauty, if it's food and beverage, whatever it is, really taking a look at it and saying like, okay, but do we need this amount of material? Do we need this amount of packaging? A great example would be like what Pack Size is doing in the corrugated world, where they're doing on-demand box manufacturing. What a great way to be sustainable. And by the way, on the profit side of things, you're not spending as much on freight, which is also sustainable and good
Right.
for your pocketbook. So, right sizing the packaging, downgrading, and you'd think that, oh, well, yeah, lots of brands, they already do that. But for so many brands, so many people are just they're overworked. People are asked to do way more with less time right now. And so not everybody just like has the time to constantly be looking at it. It does take like an Earth Day. It takes an audit to be like, okay, I know that we rushed all these products through and we just had to get it out the door, but can we pause and have somebody take a look at it? Maybe they bring in Fusion and they bring in Dan, the sustainability man, and you can go in as an engineer and sort of conduct an audit on their primary packaging and just take a look at what they're doing and come up with some suggestions. So
Yeah, that's what
um,
we do. That's what we host is conversations between the brands, and we kind of align ourselves as the green guide with brands for that exact purpose, because there's not a lot of understanding of where to go and how to get there, and things like lightweighting and other materials, changing out packaging materials, putting in PCR. So yeah.
yep. Yeah, and
that's what Fusion does to help
that's
support
awesome.
brands.
And you actually touched on the second one, which is post-consumer recycled content. And again, this is not so the number one is always the best practice. PCR it's not new. It's been around for a while. A lot of paper that we have, a lot of shipping boxes are all made
Right.
from recycled content.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's really started to make its way into probably our space, like flexible films. We're
Yeah.
talking about health and beauty, single-use sample sachets, and that's kind of the world that I play in. And then on the primary side with some of the stuff that you guys are working on. The reason that I think PCR is a great sort of step for brands from a sustainability perspective is because it creates another avenue for value for recyclers. It's pulling through demand and giving the recycling channels other places to go sell their products. For those of you who don't know, recycling is not an altruistic government-sponsored thing. It is a for-profit enterprise, and they need to
Absolutely.
be able to sell the stuff that you recycle. And if there's no avenue for that polypropylene or that HDPE or that PET or the corrugated, if there's no avenue for that to go, then they don't take it and it just gets landfilled. Even though it can be recycled, it
Yeah.
won't get recycled because there's no value. So when we put PCR, when we spec PCR into our stuff, we're generating more value. We're generating more streams. And so those are kind of the two ways that I think brands can kind of dig in. I don't know. How about yourself, Dan? Is that kind of jive with flipping
Yeah,
the tables
absolutely.
around?
I mean, PCR, that's mine right there. I love PCR. I think we're part of the APR, Association of Plastic Recyclers, the Demand Champion program. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but essentially what it is doing is creating that demand and focusing on stating exactly what you're saying. Like, we need to make sure that, like, okay, great, we can recycle it, but what does that mean? Where does that go? What are we doing with it? And if nobody wants it on that back end, then what? Yeah, they're just going to landfill it. Like, yeah, they grabbed it and now they're holding it, but there's nowhere to go for it. So
Yeah.
Fusion is a demand champion with the APR. That's just a little program they have. Which pretty much just means that we use the resins from North America that people are collecting, and it just keeps that circularity in motion, so we don't miss the chain on that circularity. So
Yeah.
we're doing that. We're doing molecular recycling to try, and that pulls the impurities out. That's like a newer technology that we're getting involved with brands. And then we also just use mechanical recycling that's available today as well. We're doing tons of PCR. That's one of our favorite solutions when we talk to brands. Because again, like we're avoiding the whole vilification of plastics. It's a great material. It's lightweight, as you referenced, shipping and whatnot, and freight and CO2 emissions from heavier freight. So we think plastic is part of the solution, and so we're not shying away from it. And we love PCR to also help lower the CO2 emissions.
Totally. Yeah. Again, if anyone wants to look up like what happened with China, so China used to take the majority of our recycling. They took the majority of our waste,
Yes.
and they would just do whatever, and we didn't even care. It was like national wish cycling, where we're just like, here's a big whole bunch of trash, and then they would figure out something to do with it. And then China was like, you know what, we're done with that. And so now we were left holding the bag, literally, like, okay, what are we going to do with all of this stuff?
Right.
And that's why, now, so we have to create that, or else it's just going to be like, I don't know, ship it, call up Elon Musk and ship it to the moon. Like, I don't know what else you're going to do with all this. So
yeah, and that's exactly why when if you look at recyclability numbers, everybody goes after plastics and even glass for low recyclability. It's because we never really actually developed a system to do anything with it. Before, it was just like, okay, we'll gather it and then we'll just send it somewhere. And so now we're like, yikes, now we need to really create the market. Again, going back to the demand champions, you actually have to create people that want to collect it, that can clean it and make it so you could purchase it, and then you have somebody that's willing to buy it. So that's sort of still a new system. That's why, like, Europe, they separate everything ahead of time. Here, we're just like, let's dump 17 materials in the same bin and think it'll be fine. So yeah, there's
Totally.
definitely. I mean, we could do a whole IG live on the
I'm
craziness
sure.
that goes on recycling. People
I'm
recycling
sure.
grass clippings and diapers, and
Dude, it's so
how
bad.
to do it properly. But
Right. Right.
and education.
Um,
So for me, that'd be the one I'd add. I don't want to change the numbers, but education for your brand. Understanding, like, if I'm going to tell people to recycle this, what is the proper way to do recycling? Like,
mhm.
what should I tell them? Should I give them a video? We're constantly trying to educate brands on recycling and what package sizes, what materials, what colors are recyclable. So definitely find those
Yep.
partners that can help you with that.
100%. Yeah. And that actually dovetails. I don't want to steal your thunder, but the two,
Go
like
for it.
what can people do?
That's next.
Because it dovetailed really well. So everybody is a packaging buyer. Everybody. Every
Sure.
single person, if you buy a thing, you have bought the packaging. You have to do something with the packaging. So as a person who is a packaging owner, you need to educate yourself on what is recyclable. What's the difference between recyclable and compostable? Goodness gracious, if I look in recycling bins all the time and I see compostable stuff in there and I'm like, they're not the same thing. And the material recovery facilities hate compostable packaging because it
Oh,
just ends
absolutely.
up
Yeah.
it ends up in their streams, and they can't do anything with it. It's meant to compost. I mean, there are papers that can obviously do both, but for the most part, a lot of these sort of bioplastics and renewable sources of PLAs and sugar canes and things like that, they are not meant to be reused. They're meant to be used one time and then buried in the ground through some sort of industrial compost bin. By the way, they don't break down in a landfill, and
Yes.
so
And you
you're
hit on the key thing, industrial
correct.
composting. So
Yeah, although I did today post there is an Indiegogo. You can go buy your own in-home industrial composting bin that they're selling on Indiegogo. So I am going to get one because I think it's interesting and fascinating to see if it actually works.
yeah, that is
But
interesting. I already have two composts, one in the backyard just open, and then I also have a worm composter. So I don't know if I need three, but
you don't
maybe.
need a third. Yeah.
I don't know if I don't
Um,
have yeah. You have to quit my
but
job
but
just to
really it's
compost.
just a full-time composter.
Full-time
Dan the
composter.
compost man.
Yeah. There you
Uh,
go. Let's just change the name a little bit.
So I think that the educating yourself is really important,
Absolutely.
and understanding what these differences are, and reading the labels and looking at the packaging and not just
Sure.
assuming. By the way, if it has the three chasing arrows on it, it does not mean it's recyclable.
Yeah.
Just
It
so
means
you
almost
know.
nothing. Yeah.
It means nothing. It's literally just a code. That's all it is.
Yeah. It's
So
material code. Yeah.
right. So contact your local recycling center and just say, hey, what do you want? Like, what's valuable for you? They'll probably say corrugated boxes, aluminum cans, clear, not clear or even white PET or HDPE, and maybe some polypropylene. Some will take glass. Outside of that, depending on your municipality, they may or may not take it. So that education piece, I think, is really critical for your local municipality. And then the second thing that we can do as consumers is hold brands accountable. Voting with our dollars really
Absolutely.
is a thing that we can do. And we have live in an unprecedented time where consumers have a tremendous amount of social advantages, right? Like we can get on an Instagram live, we can go on Twitter, we can go on, LinkedIn, whatever it is, and we can publicly ask the questions. Why did you put this on there? This, I'm being told this isn't recyclable. You can go get a group of people to get. It doesn't take much time to get yourself educated on the topic. I'm a Southern Baptist ordained minister, and I figured it out. So, shout out to all the Southern Baptists out there. But it's not like we're known to be like the pillars of sustainability in the world across the globe. So if somebody like me can get educated and figure this out and really get into it, I really think anybody can, to be quite candid with you. And really holding the brands to it and looking at it and calling people out for the claims that they're making, um, and and applying the pressure there as well. And that takes some time, but I will tell you this: I did a sustainability audit for a group out of the EU, and I went around to grocery stores, and they're like, how are businesses communicating sustainability on their packaging? And I will tell you, there is a tremendous amount of work to be done because there's not a lot of communication going on, and there's not a lot of good communication going on either. And so we need to be calling them up saying like, hey, what do you think I should do with this? Your product was great. It really made I shaved my head. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. But what should I do with this thing? Do you want it back? Do you have a reusability program? Like, what do you want? You'll probably get a lot
TerraCycle, partnership with TerraCycle or something to take the pieces back, or yes, can it be recycled? Yes. And there's a lot of people that I think, I know sustainability is getting hot lately, but, used to just be able to kind of write whatever you wanted and, oh, it's recyclable or it's this. I've done an audit on tubes before, and, you can see like 6 or 7 different ways. I remember where it was 6 or 7 different ways to label how a tube is recycled, whether it's not, or it's this material or that material. And tubes really don't get recycled,
No.
So it's just, you used to just be, so yes, I totally agree with you. You got to really be educated and know, because otherwise, you're making the wrong decisions, or you're throwing away things that can be recycled, or vice versa. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely, man. It's it is a tricky spot. I mean, sustainability is definitely a lot to learn. So, I mean, everybody's trying to do their thing, and I think we're at least getting to the stage now where people realize that, again, not just on Earth Day, but we've got a little bit of a crisis that we need to do something with all the plastics in the oceans and, the climate situation. So I think we're turning the corner here. So I think as we maybe have you on again, hopefully we'll keep getting good news. I know you like good news, so hopefully we'll.
I love it. Yeah.
Keep shouting out.
No, there's a lot of really awesome stuff happening. I'll give a shout out to Unilever. They've been a champion of sustainability.
Oh yeah.
They're going to be putting carbon ratings on all of their products and allow you to buy like, okay, well, if the cost is the same, well, this one has a less of a carbon impact than this one. So that's pretty cool that we could be able to do that. There's a ton happening in terms of waste recovery and turning waste into energy. And, I believe in human innovation. I really do. I'm not like, we're like, this is all doom and gloom. I really do believe in the power of human innovation. I think that we're going to be doing a lot of really cool stuff over the next 10 years as we're encouraged to do so. And yeah, so I'm always down to talk about packaging. And now that I have Instagram on my phone, my mom joined, by the way. Hi, Mom, I'm Instagramming. Hi, I've made it.
Awesome,
she's never
man.
been prouder.
I appreciate your time today. I realize we've done all our 422. We painted with sustainability, painted by numbers here. So I appreciate you joining. Thank you for all your insights today. Don't forget, so for everybody again, please follow the People of Packaging podcast to get more with Adam. And for anybody that wants to reach out to Fusion, if you're interested in any of our packaging solutions like PCR or other sustainable options, reach out to us on our website or DM us. So thank you again.
Cool.
I appreciate you, man. This was great.
It was great, Dan. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Welcome to Instagram.
I know. I've made it.
You're officially here. You're a Kardashian now.
I am. I'm the Kardashian of Packdashian. No, that doesn't work.
Oh, hey, there you go. We'll get you a name for the next one. Dan, the sustainability man. And
please
TBD.
don't. Please don't. All right.
Man.
Thanks,
well,
everybody.
Appreciate it again. Thank you. And thank you, everybody that has joined us today. And thanks, y'all. Happy Earth Day. And
yeah,
we'll,
definitely.
catch
Happy
you
Earth
again
Day,
soon.
everyone. Thanks, Dan.
All right, man. Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.